Hello all, so this is part 7 of the Mixing a Track series, and in this video we are going to go into reverb. So we're going to add a couple of auxiliaries with reverbs, and we're going to add 3 different types of reverb to the mix. Now the first reverb I'm going to add is going to be a room tone, so I'm going to use this on a lot of the tracks in the session, and it's kind of to just gel them all together, and you're not going to really hear it as an effect on the tune. It's just going to add more of a dimension to front to back, and allow everything to kind of sit in one sonic space. The next reverb is going to be a plate reverb, and this is going to be a much longer reverb. The room is probably going to be about 500 to 700 milliseconds, and the plate is probably going to be about 1.6 seconds. And so the plate is going to add depth to the mix. The room is going to add a space, because we're all used to hearing everything inside a space. So we're going to create a space, and then we're going to create depth with the plate reverb. And then depending on the genre, the third reverb is usually like maybe a spring or something for the guitars to give a bit of character, or maybe a really, fancy kind of fairy dust kind of shimmery kind of effect or something, so that we can create kind of like a really nice euphoric kind of sound or something like that. Okay, so let's start with the room tone. So let's add a bus. So I'm going to go over to the last track in my session, which is the BV bus, and I'm going to press Shift Command N. I'm going to press Command on the cursor to the right to get stereo, down to get auxiliary input, and then return. And name it room. And I will start by save to soloing, just because I know I'm going to have to do it. And then I'm going to set up a send. So I'm going to want this send on every track. So I'm going to select all the tracks in the session. But I don't want it on my mix or my submix. So now I press Shift, Alt, and go to my sends. Go to a bus, let's say bus 19 and 20. And because I've pressed Shift and Alt, Alt will do it to everything. Shift Alt will do it to whatever is selected. So now we have our send. I can just press Command and click on the arrow. And now we can see the little mini faders. And I'm sending to bus 19 and 20, or sending from bus 19 and 20. So I want 19 and 20 to return. And I will add in a plugin. There are plenty of different reverb plugins that would be good for this task. I'm going to use the Abbey Road Chambers just because it's quite a nice sounding plugin. And I'm going to set it to the Stone Room. And I'm going to set the microphones back a bit. And let's have a listen. I'm going to just send the drums to it to start with. So let's solo our drums. Okay, and so we have this delay. I want to turn that off. Okay, we all have seen the Abbey Road reverb trick, which is to use a high pass filter and get rid of the low end, so you don't have loads of low frequency extension. You're not sending loads of 100 hertz of kick drum to the reverb and creating mud in your mix. So we'll just roll off the lows and maybe a little bit of the highs. So 0.7. Oh, I need to send this to my submix. So you can hear that it's not adding a reverb effect, like there's no super long tail, but it is creating a space for the drums to live in. And let's add in the bass. Now, reverb on bass is not usual, but if your bass is super dry, this is a DI and there's no it's not going through an amp, there's no ambient mics on an amp. So if we have it with no reverb, it's going to kind of not gel with the rest of the mix. So I'm not going to put a lot of reverb on it, but I am going to put a little. Guitar. Piano. Organ. Now I'm going to probably use a lot of the plate reverb on the organ, so I don't need much of the room tone. Vocal.
Well, I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling.
Once again, it's probably going to be using the longer reverb for the most part, but I'm just going to put a little bit on, so that they're all in the same room. And so now we can have a listen, and I can turn off the reverb and bring it in.
Here we are, well, I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling. And I done seen some things before I've learned my lesson.
So you don't really hear it as an effect, but when I turn it off, the mix suddenly becomes very dry and close.
Here we are, well, I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling. And I done seen some things.
Excellent. Okay, let's have a look at plate reverb. So once again, a new aux. And this time I'll start by sending it to the submix. I don't want to make that mistake again. And I will select everything and send to 21 and 22. Have that return 21, 22. Safety solo. And let's add in an effect. So a nice plate is the Lustrous plates from Slate. And we can have a listen through that. So let's start with the plate on the vocal.
Here we are, well, I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling. And I done seen some things.
So we can choose how long it is.
Here we are, well, I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling. And I done seen some things before I've learned my lessons. I know you're tired of seeing me leave. The only way I know to give you what you need.
And then pre-delay is very useful. If we're drowning something in reverb, you can separate it by pre-delaying the reverb. So the initial sound happens, and then your pre-delay happens by a certain amount of time, and then the reverb kicks in. I'll give you an example.
Here we are, well, I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling. And I done seen some things before I've learned my lesson.
And so I'm not going to use a massive amount of reverb, so I'm not going to wash it out.
Here we are, well I'm off again, going through this world.
Like that. So, but I will use the pre-delay a little bit.
Here we are, well I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling, and I done seen some things.
Just so that there's a little bit more of a delay, you know, we get more extension on the reverb without using a long reverb time, which will continue on into the mix, like if I was to use this.
Here we are, well I'm off again.
It just sounds like a big hall. So let's dial that back a bit. We also have an EQ in this, so we can brighten up the highs.
Here we are, well I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling, and I done seen some things. Before I've learned my lesson, I know your time to see me leave. The only way I know to give you what you need, so please hold on tight.
Take out any lows. And now let's balance that in with the send.
Here we are, well I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling, and I done seen some things. Before I've learned my lesson, I know your time to see me leave. The only way I know to give you what you need, so please hold on tight. You're on my mind, for you I will provide.
Other things that we might send to the plate would be snare drum. Let's have a listen to that.
Here we are, well I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling, and I done seen some things. Before I've learned my lesson, I know your time to see me leave.
We could try sending our drums room mic that we focused on the snare. Sometimes toms. Okay, organ. Piano. I think it's just going to cloud it up a bit though, so maybe not.
Hey.
And then I said one final kind of a special effect reverb. It could be a delay. If not, I'm going to put in a shimmer verb from Valhalla. So I'll just use up a send bus, and then I will send from this. Send out to the same bus. Send the output of this to my submix. And let's add in that plugin. Valhalla do really nice plugins. So shimmer, black hole. Take out the lows we don't need. I'm going to leave the highs in because I kind of want that. It's pitch shifting up.
Love always saves me. Wherever I go, wherever I lay, but now you should know I won't lose my way. Your love always saves me.
And we can widen it as well.
Saves me. Your love always saves me. Wherever I go.
Let's turn it down. And I was thinking that might be nice on the organ.
But now you should know I won't lose my way. Your love always saves me. Your love always saves me.
It adds a tiny bit to that. Let's just... Yeah, it's helping. So the next thing we need to do is bring in our backing vocals. See you in part 8.